Hello, everyone. Welcome to our sixth webinar. Can everybody that is in right now, can you hear me okay? Give a thumbs up. Oh, thank you. Um, so I'm going to share my screen right now. Um, and if you can let me know if you can or can't see that. Okay, so it looks like there will be a few more people joining in here yet, but I'll get started. This is our sixth information session, and we will be going over some of our fall tips and things that are pertinent for what we're doing right now. So we'll talk a little bit about our fall services. There's many customers that have received fall services already, but we'll have a few weeks here left to get everybody completed. Talk about some water and irrigation things for the end of the season here and how to winterize, and then just preparing for winter in general for the lawn. So our fall services, those consist of aeration, overseeding, and organic fertilizer. That would be in our standard program. We also do applications of C20. We do late season iron applications, and we also do edging services at this time of year. So this was presented in the last information session, but just to go over aeration again, aeration is a natural, chemical-free uh, machine that we go and we pull cores of soil out of the lawn and disperse them on the top of the lawn. This will help get oxygen into the soil. It will help get some space for grass roots to grow. It also provides a nice place for grass seed to sow, so it has good seed to soil contact. This will help relieve compaction. It'll help reduce thatch, and it's just a good overall cultural method for a lawn and something that we do annually. So this is just a little diagram or a picture of what an aeration really does. So allowing that water and oxygen to go into the soil, that will help microbes thrive and improve the soil quality. It also allows for the grass roots to grow deeper. Deep grass roots are going to be more drought resistant. So that is important as we have some of our stresses in summer. The aeration helps our grass be healthier, which will help it withstand some of those summer stresses and drought much better. We combine aeration with seeding. So things to keep in mind for seeding is the timing. We'll talk a little bit about cultivars and species of grasses. Here at Lunseth, we choose a lot of low maintenance grass species that will require less inputs than other species of grass. We customize the seed to your sunshade level. We do think about seed varieties that are more drought tolerant, thinking about the last few summers that we've had, drought being an issue. Not so much this year, but the 2 years previous to that. And then we look for seed cultivars and varieties that are allelopathic. So those are species of grass that will naturally ward off unlike things. So they like to live around each other, and therefore they're going to promote being around grass as opposed to things like weeds. So I'm going to show this video just helping to explain the difference between spring seeding and fall seeding, and why we would do fall seeding as an annual practice.
Seeding your lawn is a process and could take several sows to completely fill, with seasonal timing being a critical component to successful establishment. Spring seeding may be necessary to repair damage from winter, grubs, or pets. Keep the following in mind when sowing in spring. Weeds establish more quickly and aggressively than grass in spring. Competition with springtime weeds may require multiple sows. Heavy spring raking and dethatching can encourage weed growth. Spring seedlings require watering and minimal traffic to mature in summer stress. Annual summer weeds also compete with germinating grass seeds. Full season grasses are best established in the fall when the nights are cooler. Consider the following when sowing in fall. Fall seeding lessens competition with weeds for a higher germination rate. Consider timing when choosing grass species for later season sowing. Fall seeding allows grass to establish well before the next stressful summer. Immature grass will overwinter better than over summer. It can take a full season of sowing for your lawn to mature into a durable stand. Overseeding each fall is a great way to continue to thicken and diversify your grass stand into a healthy, hardy lawn that naturally wards off weeds. Naturally, we can help.
So in our grass mixes that we hand pick all of our grass mixes here at Lunseth, we use a lot of fine fescues in all of our mixes. So fine fescues consist of creeping red fescue, hard fescue, chewings, and sheep fescue. Those are the four main ones. We use these grass varieties because they are low maintenance. They do very well in Minnesota, so they overwinter well. And they are fairly resistant to a lot of disease and insect issues, as in a general sense. We find fescues, one thing to note about them is they don't recover in drought as well as some other species. So grasses like Kentucky bluegrass, if it is hot and stressful, that grass will go dormant very quickly. That's its way of protecting itself. The fine fescues take a bit more time to recover from drought. So one thing to just note, and also when we talk about watering, watering ahead of hot and dry periods is a really good way to prevent dormancy. And those are some issues we talked about kind of midsummer, but it's just something to keep in mind here about those fine fescues. And also another useful tip is that they should not be mowed when they're dry. So they are a bit sensitive to being dry. And anytime we mow our grasses, it actually is a stressor for them. So mowing less often is a good strategy. And laying off on the mowing when it is hot and dry out is very helpful to protect that grass plant. So a few other tips or pros and cons against the different types of fescues within the fine fescue family. We use a variety of mixes or of cultivars and of these species of fine fescue because they all have a little bit different qualities. The one thing you want to think about with a home lawn is you want to have a variety of grasses in there. That way they will, if we are having let's say, a very wet summer, there are going to be certain species and cultivars that are going to do better in that condition. There's going to be some species and cultivars that are going to do well in drought conditions. And so the more you diversify, the more you're going to protect your lawn as a stand. And so there's always going to be one grass that's doing better than others. The creeping red fescues, those are very cold tolerant, so really good for Minnesota. They don't do as well in heat and drought as some of the other varieties. Chewings fescue is very shade tolerant, so we always have a higher amount of that in our shade mixes. But it does tolerate summer stress as well, so it's a good overall uh, variety in our fine fescue family. Hard fescue, that has been kind of a winner in the last 3 years. It does super well in drought conditions, doesn't like wet conditions. So that one could have been one that earlier this spring, early summer, didn't look as well because it doesn't prefer to be in the wet conditions. 2 years previous to that, the hard fescue was very nice for our periods of no rain. And then sheep fescue is one that we don't carry in our standard mixes. That one is usually used in a low mow, no mow situation. Those are all fescues, but they have more sheep fescue in them. Sheep fescue is that one that is very aesthetic, where it kind of flops over nice and gives it kind of that the look of when you have a fine fescue lawn that you're not mowing. It gives that kind of wavy look to it. So in our mixes, you're always welcome to ask us what's in our mix. Each year we do review this and look at NTEP studies. So that's testing for grasses. They do them every year. And so we look at cultivars that are doing very well, especially in Minnesota. So you can see in our sunshade mix, we're going to have more hard fescue. We're also going to have 20% Kentucky bluegrass. That's a more of a higher maintenance grass. It's typical for most lawns in Minnesota. And it is a great grass. It overwinters very well. It is just a little more high maintenance than the fine fescues, so it requires more sunlight, more water, and more nitrogen. Our shade mix is not going to have anything but fine fescues in there, and we're going to use more of the Chewings fescue than other cultivars because that one does very well in shade conditions. All of our mixes can do well in sun or shade. They're just made for those specific environments to do the best. I always like to show this slide if you're buying seed on your own. Uh, right now we're in a very good seeding window. We're also going to enter a dormant seeding window, which we'll talk about later in this. But when you're buying your own seed, turning the bag around and looking at things on the back of the seed bag is very important to understand what you're getting. One I always like to point out when you see a label and that has any annual ryegrass in there. It's very common for that to be part of a mix. It's very inexpensive, but anything that says annual is only going to come up for a year and then it will not overwinter. So thinking about you want a grass stand, you really don't want anything annual in there if you can help it because that won't overwinter. Also, you want to stay away from things that say variety not stated. You really want to know exactly what's in there. If it's not stated, it's questionable what that really is. So you really don't want to see anything that says that. And then you look at these requirements here. So you want some diversity. You want the purity to be over 85%. You want your germination to be over 85%. So those are going to talk about the seed being actually viable to germinate into grass. You want that to be at least 85% to get grass that's going to germinate. You do want to have the weed seeds to be under 0.3%. A little bit is fine, but keeping that very low. Other crops also about 0.5%. And inert matter, you want that to be under 8%. There's some seeds that you can find that are 80% inert matter, and really that just means mulch with a little bit of seed in there. So if you want to buy seed, you really want to buy, all seeds, and that will germinate in the lawn. You also want to look at the date tested and have it be tested within the last month, 9 months. That will ensure that you're going to have some success with the germination rate. So fertilizing in the fall. Oh, I should also just mention if you're welcome to stop me or put any comments or questions in the chat. Happy to get interrupted to answer any questions you have as I go along. I will be answering questions at the end too. So fertilizing in the fall, that is a really good time to apply fertilizer. It encourages root growth. A lot of that has to do with plants when they're preparing for dormancy. They're going to store all their carbohydrates to their roots. And all of that will help them overwinter well. It'll help them recover from summer stresses, and it's really going to help with that spring growth. So one of the most important fertilizers of the year is the one that is applied here right in the fall. And here's a video quick on why organic fertilizer versus traditional.
We often get asked the difference between organic and synthetic fertilizer, and for reasons why to make the switch. Organic fertilizer is balanced food for your lawn that contains macro and micronutrients and no fillers. It is processed through microbial activity, so any excess will be stored in the soil and released long term. Nothing is wasted or washed away. Organic fertilizer improves soil structure and nutrients, creating and feeding healthy grass plants that resist drought and disease. And organic fertilizer turns your lawn's root zone into a self-sustaining environment, allowing the soil to provide nutrients to grass plants, giving your lawn tools to work better on its own. Synthetic fertilizers can include fillers and a higher salt index. They do not work to improve soil or microbial populations. Synthetic fertilizers feed grass directly with a quick release of nutrients that can potentially evade grass plants and get lost in the soil, allowing them to leach and run off into waterways. Chemical-based fertilizers can deplete the microbial life in soil, turning your lawn into a weak system that is dependent on synthetic food. We love answering questions, so reach out today to learn more. Naturally, we can help.
So as that video showed, I do like to always highlight a few videos in my webinars. We do have a video library on our website and has a lot of different topics that we like to continue and build on. Same as this webinar will be on our video library. You can find other videos that are about our products and services. So as Eric had mentioned in that video, 100% organic fertilizer it's different than organic based or synthetic chemical based fertilizers. It doesn't require water. So you don't need to water that in. It is a slow release, so the nutrients are going to be released slowly. With organic fertilizer, it does need to be processed by microbes, so the grass is only going to receive nutrients as they need it. Everything else is then stored in the soil. So that's how nothing is wasted or washed away. A lot of time, the grass roots need to communicate with the microbes, and when they need something, they communicate, the microbes process and help put those nutrients into an available form for the grass to take up. When it doesn't need it, then everything just sits in place until it does. So that's a difference between some of the maybe quick release chemical fertilizers. It is The organic fertilizer will naturally improve your soil structure. It feeds earthworms and soil microbes. It encourages microbial populations to grow. All of that's going to help improve your soil, help improve the water infiltration capabilities and the water processing of the soil. When we can't aerate, we do have a product called C20 that we put down. In some homes, we also do aeration with the C20 together. So C20 it's a carbohydrate source for microbes. So it will encourage and introduce more microbes than were there previously. Those microbes then they reproduce, they respirate, and in that process, they're creating little oxygen pockets within the soil that's going to work as a non-mechanical aeration. So it'll increase your soil microbial activity, it'll decrease your compaction, increase your water retention, and enhance the root growth. So in areas that we can't aerate or in might be hard to access areas, or somebody might have shallow lines, so we don't want to put an aerator on their lawn, then we can use the C20 as a replacement, or can aid in it. You can aerate and do C20 at the same time. Those would be for lawn renovations, for severely compacted soils, or just soils that are not very alive. C20 can really soften and create this microbial environment within the soil. So you can see in this image where we have tree roots that will be difficult because we don't want to puncture those with the aerator. Slopes are very tricky for us, especially if we have a wet fall. We won't be able to do all of those kind of areas. And then those difficult to access turf spaces. One of the other things that's important to do at the end of the season here, and we talk about our weed control as a full season approach. We do corn gluten in the early spring. That's going to prevent some of our annual weeds. We do liquid iron as a post-emergent. We can do up to 4, possibly 5, depending on the weeds and the situation in a season. So multiple applications of iron can be applied. We typically, for weeds such as creeping Charlie, clover, plantains, and thistle. Saving that fourth iron for the late fall is a really good strategy because it will have a larger suppression rate than it will in the beginning of the year. A lot of that has to do with the energy of the plants. So a plant that has that's actively growing. So let's say creeping Charlie in the spring, it's flowering, it has a lot of sunlight, it has warm conditions. Um, it can bypass the stress of the iron a lot easier than this time of year. When we hit it in October, those weeds are in a weakened state because they're preparing for dormancy. So they're putting their carbohydrates to their root system. They're kind of shutting down for the season. So if you hit them when they're weak, you have a better chance of suppressing it and not having that active energy to grow beyond the stress. The other part of our weed control that we're doing in the fall is sowing those allelopathic grass species. So a lot of those being the vine fescue family. Um, and then just a reminder, the things that you can do to help, the cultural methods would be mowing appropriately and water appropriately. So mowing high, we like the grass cut at around 4 inches is nice, especially during the hot summer months. The longer you keep your grass, the longer those grass roots are, so they'll be more drought resistant. Keeping the grass long also protects the crown of the grass plant and will crowd out sunlight from reaching the soil to hit some of those low-lying weeds and helping them germinate. So chelated iron is the liquid iron that we apply. It's a iron and it's disguised as an amino acid. So that's why some plants are susceptible to it differently than others, and some aren't at all. It's how the plant uses that amino acid. So this image is showing creeping Charlie that is being suppressed. So you can see that it kind of turns black, kind of purpley brown on the outside. What creeping Charlie does is it loves to just put down a new node and can grow beyond the stress. That's why multiple applications helps slow the spread of the creeping Charlie, and the ones that we put at the end of the season are going to help start to really suppress it. It can be applied in temperatures as low as 45 degrees. That's why we can do it through October. So Creeping Charlie just generally likes moist and shady conditions. Those repeat applications help repeat stress. Late fall is going to do the most suppression. We can do a fifth application for just Creeping Charlie areas as a fifth application in the late October. We'll look at weather ahead of time and try to see what we can sneak in. But for homes that have a significant Creepy Charlie issue, that can be a strategy that we've been doing the last few years as another way to really get some good suppression here at the end of the season. Edging is another thing that we offer this time of year. So this picture is showing some crabgrass and some other weeds, and it's really those are growing over kind of the sidewalk edge. So edging is going to clean up that line. It will pull weeds at the same time. These are weeds that are often that thrive in heat zones. So heat zones are going to be adjacent to concrete. A lot of our weeds like crabgrass, they they're going to germinate earlier in soil that warms up faster. So south-facing slopes, any general area that's sunnier than other areas that are going to have larger issues with the summer annual weeds that can germinate pretty early. So edging is a nice way to clean up the heat zone along concrete. We can't do it edging against asphalt. We can only do it against concrete or like blacktop. We can't do. Gives you a nice clean aesthetic, and it gives you an immediate curb appeal. So you can see in this picture kind of the before and after. So a nice clean look can be cleaning up some of those weeds in the same application. So things to keep in mind for fall. So let us know if we can leave you extra seed. We always can bring seed by one time a year. You can always request it. These would be for the little nooks and crannies, the small spaces that we can't get into, or any place that needs extra attention. Our aeration and overseed is meant to just thicken and diversify the grass that's there. Some grasses, some bare areas that need more of a like a new establishment rate might need some extra seed, and you can always request that from us. You can also consider if you need an extra iron application. Iron will work on some weeds, not all. Doesn't work on anything grassy, but works on some broadleaf weeds. The ones in the late season that it can be really effective against, again, is creeping Charlie, clover, thistle, and plantains. And then edging is something that can help with heat zone weeds. So if you have a lot of those and want to kind of clean that up, something that we could still offer here at the end of the season. So I want to talk a little bit about irrigation. We get asked a lot about when we should turn it off or how we should be watering. So anyone that's been seeded, you do want to water for 1 to 3 weeks, depending on the time that you have available and your sun's shade level. Shade mixes really require 1.5, 2 weeks of watering, with that first 1 week to 10 days being the most important. All fine fescues will germinate within 10 days. So you just want to keep that seed moist during that germination process. Not letting it dry out during the process will ensure that it will germinate into healthy grass. Watering into fall is important too, as we've been getting a decent amount of rain, but we want to think about our soil moisture levels and making sure that we water for as long as we can to keep our plants growing strong. And this is also a great time when you're thinking about winterizing irrigation systems, is auditing those systems, seeing if there's anything broken. Is it all working okay? If you have a company that helps you with that, they can do audits to adjust so you can be on a good track for next year, or can think about that in spring when you get the system set up. I learned this at the U of M recently, and I just wanted to share it, where there are rebates available in the Twin Cities for upgrading irrigation products. So if you have a home irrigation system, auditing those and getting some money back for doing those can help be helpful in making the decision to even to get new irrigation, or to just something to think about so you can get some return on your investment for that. And if I can, I'll just go to the website here. Um, if you can see that, it does show by communities. So it goes by the county, and then we'll show the cities that have rebates. So it's just something to think about and look out for. It might be a good time to apply for this, or you could think about it for next year as well. But something in making sure that our irrigation systems are working properly, that we have smart irrigation controllers so we are not watering during rain events. And yeah, making sure that we're also not oversaturating areas with something that isn't working properly. So something to think about there. So as we're preparing for winter, we get asked a lot about what you should do. Clearing large debris, large leaf litter, all good practices this time of year. We do encourage mulching the leaf litter into the lawn. I'll show you what I mean by that in the next slide. But always good to recycle the grass clippings and mulching up leaves for good free fertilizer for your lawn. Interesting, removing buckthorn. I know buckthorn is an issue for a lot of people. November is a really good time to spot it because as other plants will lose their leaves, the buckthorn will be easy to spot and easy to identify in that November time. So just something to keep in mind there. You want to protect your trees and your perennials from wildlife and the harsh winters. So covering those and wrapping them are things that you can do as you enter into this late fall season. You do want to keep watering your plants until the ground freezes. Trees, shrubs, those are all important to keep those healthy. Controlling weeds late in the fall is a good way to do it in an environmentally responsible way. And then you do want to start gradually cutting your grass shorter. So you never want to cut off more than 1/3 of the grass blade at a time. So really just incrementally start turning or turning down the deck and the mower so that it enters winter. I said 2.5, 3 inches, could be 2 inches. Doesn't have to be super short. All of this is meant to deter critters from harboring in the thick, long grass as we enter the winter time. So here is a video of when I say mulching the leaves up instead of raking them and bagging them. This is what I am talking about. As you can see, you can just run the mower through to kind of break those leaf debris up. The idea is you want the lawn to enter winter. It's okay to have some leaf litter there as long as you can see grass blades through it. So you don't want to smother or have any areas that have too much leaf litter to smother the grass. And so here, this is showing Eric. He went over the lawn 3 times to kind of mulch up that leaf debris. Doing that as the leaves are falling or going to start to fall, instead of waiting for one big fall, is a good way to get this accomplished. Just knowing that sometimes you're going to have to bag them up, but this is a good approach as the leaves start to come down. Another thing to talk about is dormant seeding. Again, at this U of M event I went to recently, talked about there's really specific rules about dormant seeding, about being successful, but also you can think the last 2 winters we couldn't really count on significant snowfall. So just something to note that seeding during the winter time can actually be done anytime. You don't have to, the the textbook way is you want the soil to be you want the soil to not be quite frozen, but getting close to it. So you don't want the soil to be warm enough to germinate any of the seed. You want the seed to kind of embed into the soil. It's nice if you can right after, like time it where then there's a snow event that protects that seed, and then it can all kind of freeze into place. The idea is then in the spring, when things thaw out, you're going to get early germination of that grass because those as it's melting, the water and then hopefully the sunlight and the lack of snow will help that seed germinate very quickly in the early spring. You but just know that somebody asked the question, can you seed on top of snow? And they said, yes. There might be birds and things that take that, but you really can kind of make an attempt at this anytime. There's when we have warm periods and then get cold again, that's where dormant seeding can go wrong because it will, if it starts the germination process but then gets cold again and freezes into place or gets halted, then it won't be viable to complete that germination successfully. So it's always something where we're kind of dependent on what the weather does. So in areas that you're struggling with, if you want some seed to play around with and just put it out and see if you can get some to go. There's a lot of time in the winter that you can do that. And let me know if you have questions. I used to try to help people. Like I think this weekend might be a good weekend to dormant seed because of the last 2 winters. It hasn't been very. It's I wouldn't say that winters are normal, but it really with that lack of snow, it was harder to make a judgment on that. But always happy to give some advice if you're thinking about doing that. One thing to note is it does need seed to soil contact. So if you have a lot of grass and you put seed on top of that, it's not going to germinate into grass. So in like this picture where you see there's kind of soil areas, those are the areas you want to get the seed into. You can certainly put seed throughout the lawn, but if you can rake that in so it falls down and connects with the soil, that's how you're going to get that seed to germinate. We will be sending out renewals soon here, so we start on November 1st. We do give a discount if you pay for services for next year, if you want to pay them upfront in 2025. So we'll have some incentives to sign up before the end of the year. We do take into consideration the program that you have, any concerns that you've had over the year, any issues. We also look at soil tests. Our customers will get soil tested anywhere between 2 and 6 years, every 2 to 6 years. It depends on many factors, but we do go out, do a free soil test, see what the nutritional recommendations are, and kind of make a catered plan for your home based on those results. We do want everybody to work the program for multiple years before we soil test because we want to see we want that the organic process to start working, and then we'll see where it's at. And then every 3 years after we take the first test, we're going to continue to monitor it and see that things are moving in the right direction. We also might do soil testing if there's some issue that we can't figure out that will help give us a piece to the puzzle. So soil tests, what we're looking for in those, we're looking for organic matter content. Anything that's over 4.6% is high. That is what we would want to see. As you continue with an organic lawn care approach, we would expect that organic matter content will continue to increase. There's some homes that are going to have a larger issue with that depending on the soil structure. Sandy soil can be harder to convert over, yet I've seen a lot of sandy soils this year with high organic matter content. So certainly possible to do. When we get the results, we usually talk about ways we can speed that up or reasons why that reading is where it's at. We also look at pH. Minnesota is naturally going to be high in our pH. So 7 is neutral, below 7 is acidic, and above 7 is alkaline. We tend to have alkaline soils here. We have high buffering capacity, and that is because of the parent material of our soil is limestone, and so it generally is just going to have a higher pH and harder to lower that. Anything that is within the 6 to 8 range is going to be growing good grass. Minnesota soils typically are in that 7.1 to 7.5 is very common. But anything in that 6 to 8 is going to grow good grass. We'll look at nutritional recommendations and see if we need to alter the fertilizer. We'll look at weed identification and make plans for either more or less iron applications during the season. We can also play around with the corn gluten applications to get some better pre-emergent control. And then we're going to look at soil texture. So thinking about specific watering needs, compaction issues, water that might be sitting too long, or areas where the soil doesn't hold water very well. We'll look at that to give some tips about how to improve that and how to also just manage the different kind of ecosystems that are within our own home lawn. And just want to say thank you for a great year. As we're winding down, we still will be working through October, but this generally September we think is our kind of wind down for the year. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. If you guys want to even type anything in the chat, I will, let me see if I can open the chat so I can see it. Or you can unmute yourself and just ask a question, anything that you have. Okay, can you guys still see this? Am I still sharing my screen? Sorry, I'm trying to, oh, I see. Okay. All right, should we try to pull the creeping Charlie when it's distressed after the iron treatment? That is a very good question. I would say that yes, you can always do that. Sometimes if you pull it before we come with the iron, then all that's going to be left is that little node that the creeping Charlie will just grow more from there. Um, so if we apply the iron, I would say wait a couple days, see what it does, and then if you heavy metal rake it, so like a sand rake, something where you're going to get the hard metal tines to pull those rhizomes out together in big strands, that can be a really good strategy because then you're kind of double stressing it out at that time. So definitely something to do. And when you rake it, if you can rake it back to where it's coming from. So let's say you have like maybe a wild area in the back and that's where all the Charlie's coming out. If you rake it back toward the wild area, it'll tend to grow away from areas it's stressed. And so or it's kind of a joke, if it's coming from a neighbor, you rake it back so that the energy goes to that area as opposed to your yard. Can be a strategy. Doing that heavy metal raking it in the fall and spring are two very good times to do it. You can also do it anytime during the season. So then I have a question. I'm outside your service area. Can I get iron or other organics from you to apply myself? We don't particularly do that, but I can give advice. So I can give advice on where to get. So chelated iron now you can get via retail. We use one that is FEHEDTA, so I can put that in here. The chelating agent is the HEDTA. There are different chelating agents for different irons. So some retail, you might find something that's a little bit different than that. Read the label, whatever you buy, read the label, make sure that you're applying it in accordance with that. And organic fertilizers, I can give tips on that. We have several different places that we purchase them from, and different applications that we use different types of organic fertilizer. Corn gluten meal, that is something too that you can also get retail. So you want to put down for the corn gluten meal, you want to put down at least 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet to get weed suppression abilities. Otherwise, it's just going to fertilize. So sometimes when people buy corn gluten, they put it down and they'll say it's doing nothing for the weeds. It's usually because you just don't have enough. You can put down, even 300 pounds per 1,000 square feet, which would be like a mulch. But that will have great weed suppression. You can't, it's very hard to put on so much that you would actually do harm to the grass. So, corn gluten meal is something that you can certainly purchase on your own. So you can send me, I think it was Joel, you could send me email at Shay, so it's SHAY at Team Lunseth. And I can give you advice on where to get things. And then also asked, I have heavy plantain areas. What should I do? Where to start to get it grassy again? So plantains are really interesting. They are there's weeds that are called signal weeds, and so when you have it, it's usually telling some more part of the story. So plantains are a sign of compaction. You can often see them in areas like maybe where a male person might walk in the winter time, where maybe a dog might be. They're they love compaction and they thrive in those areas. So 4 applications of iron can suppress plantains, but you also want to think about relieving the compaction as the whole story. So even if you get them out, they might come back. Because the soil is more advantageous for the plantains than it is for grass. So chelated iron can work on plantains. You want to relieve compaction. You can do that with aeration. You can do that with C20, which C20 you also can get that product via retail. I know like Twin City Seed in Edina sells that. I also would imagine some of the other bigger places you can try like a Gerton's, Bachman's. They might have C20 as well. You can look online. I think Precision Organics might show where they might sell it. They're a distributor here down in the south of the cities. So that would be good strategy for plantain areas. And plantain should be something you can get under control, fixing that compaction and using that iron. And then with everything, you think about when you get a weed out, if we don't replace it with grass, then and it's just bare soil, it's just going to come another weed in there. So adding grass is always a really good cultural method to help control the weeds. How do we order extra grass seed? So you are welcome to, you can email us and say, can I have some seed dropped off? So if we still have yet to come to your house, the crews always have seed with them. So they could drop off seed there at that time. You can ask them when they're there too. If you happen to catch them and you want some seed, they should have some to share. Otherwise, you can email the office and then somebody here can drop some off for you. We only do like Ziploc baggies of it, not a significant amount. So if you want more than that, we give advice about where like some of the house mixes at Twin City Seed, they are can be comparable to us. So that's something you could just buy their house mix. You could buy a full bag from us, but it's a lot of seed and it's more expensive. So we don't necessarily just sell our seed mix, and Twin City Seed doesn't sell it either. But you can request that if you want a little bit more. Just again, Shay at Team Lenseth, be happy to uh, get you what you need. So the edging service you mentioned, is that an application or a manual process? So the edging is a manual process. So they will take an edger. So it's just a thing that makes a kind of a slit along the edge and will pull things up. Then they take all that debris, they bag it and take it away with them. So it is going to be a manual process. Do you install irrigation systems? We currently do not, but that is something that we're looking heavily into in the future, being able to add to our service list. So stay tuned for that. I will, of course, make an announcement if we ever, you know, decide to start that division, but it is something we talk about. We have referrals for irrigation, so I can always, if you want to email me, I can give you referrals for people that we recommend in town or maybe near your home. What will kill Creeping Charlie? So um, the creeping Charlie, so it can be suppressed with the chelated iron. But as probably people know that we will never be able to get it 100%. Even if we get it 100%, it doesn't mean it's always necessarily just gone forever. Creeping Charlie is one of the most persistent and stubborn weeds in Minnesota. It is hard to treat even with chemicals. If you do want to have a good chance of getting rid of it. If you want to use chemicals, we don't offer that service, but you can either call another company or you can see if you can get some products online. But Creeping Charlie has to have the chemical triclopyr in it. So I'm going to write that down, triclopyr. Um, that is, usually you want a three-way. So you want like a 2,4-D with a triclopyr with a third mode of action, which could be something like a dicamba. But those doing a three-way with the triclopyr in the late fall. So when that Creeping Charlie is going dormant, it's weak, hit it when it's weak. It's the most environmentally friendly way to do the chemicals because you have a good chance of doing it one time. Again, you want part of this strategy, you want to replace that Charlie with grass because it's generally going to be in shaded areas. It was introduced in Minnesota as a ground cover, so it will fill in bare areas, thinning areas of the lawn. Even though it likes shade, it certainly can grow in full sun as well. So chelated iron, some people even we might do 4 applications through our approach, but people might buy it retail and just do some hand spraying on that Creeping Charlie specifically. That can be helpful. You can do chemicals, heavy metal raking. Those are all the textbook answers for it. Will corn gluten meal reduce my grass seed germination? That's a very good question. So you always want to spread out the corn gluten meal from grass seed establishment because what the corn gluten meal does, so it is 60% protein of corn. It will inhibit the root formation of things that are trying to grow a root. It will prohibit those from fully forming. So if you were going to put corn gluten down and seeding down, that corn gluten would prevent the seed from germinating. You can reduce that by either separating them out by about 3 weeks. So you can either put corn gluten down 3 weeks before you do some seeding effort, or vice versa. You could put corn gluten down and then you could put like dry compost or a dry compost soil mixture and then seed right into the soil. So as long as you have a barrier between the corn and the seed, then both of those things can work effectively without conflicting with each other. But yeah, you do want to be careful when we're dormant seeding because that seed isn't really going to start germinating until spring. It will be early spring. You don't want to do corn gluten meal, although you could do corn gluten meal if, let's say it's April, the soil is warming, it's 50 degrees. That might be enough to warm enough for that seed to start germinating. You could still put corn gluten down in like, so if that was April, maybe it would be May, uh, late May or mid-May, something like that. You could still put corn gluten down. The timing of everything is a little bit tricky because you put the corn gluten down until the soil is about 55 to 57 degrees. That's when we stop, because then most weeds are already going to start their germination process. So whenever you have a specific situation like you seeded right then, and we have applications coming up, you can always ask us, if we need to, because we can adjust our schedule to make sure that your seeding is successful. And we'll also do in our emails of what to do before and after. We'll always talk about seeding in there. So if you had seeded, then you might want to reschedule. Or if you're thinking about seeding, you might want to wait until it's a good time to do so. Yeah, Joel, and feel free to email me directly. I can answer any questions that you have. Do we have any other questions? I think I got a new one. Okay, when heavy metal raking creeping Charlie, should I try to pull up the plant and root, really pull out the root, um, and rake the pile towards the fence near the neighbors where it's coming from? Yes. So it's that little node that sometimes little parts of it get stuck in the soil, and that little node can grow new creeping Charlie. So there's like a node, and then there'll be runners, and then another node, and then runner node, and so that's why it's these big long rhizomes that are on top of the soil. Those little nodes are what's hard to get, but again, you're stressing it out, so you're slowing it down. um, you know, if you can pull up those roots, awesome. Do it. That's always the best way to completely get rid of it. Yeah, and rake the pile toward the fence near the neighbor where it's coming from is a good strategy and there's also, I should give a little plug for, there's landscaping things you can do as well. So if there's like, let's say a neighbor and then it's your yard and it's a constant battle, sometimes putting something there that's landscaping that can help kind of stop it from having a place to come in. Um, that's not to say that Creeping Charlie won't go over landscaping beds, rock beds. I've seen it actually kind of grow over a bush before. So it can find a way, which really, I always think about how nature is pretty amazing because it can find a way to live. Um, but yeah, those are all just, strategies to help. Did I answer that okay? Any other questions, comments? Any particular issues this year over last? I know we had a lot of rain, so that posed some challenges in the early season. a lot of disease issues with that rain, but right now we're entering some nice, beautiful weather. So hopefully have a nice, long fall would be wonderful. Yeah, and that rain, after 2 years of drought, and then this year with all the rain, it's been very good for our plants. It's been good for weeds and things too. But one thing that's um, helpful to see is that a lot of trees have been affected from 2 years of lack of snowfall, 2 summers previous to that of high stress. So this rain, this natural rain, really helps some of those things get some support. So if we want additional Creeping Charlie treatment, do we email to request it? Yes. Yep, you can email to request it. Uh, oh yeah, and where to buy organic products again. Thanks for all the details. So yeah, the organic products, I will, so again, some of the big places, so Gerton's, Bachman's, Mother Earth Gardens, Eggplant Supply. Those are kind of some of the main ones that I always think about, that have a lot of options, and a lot of those being organic. Uh, the other product I was calling is C20, which comes from Precision Organics. Um, and Twin City Seed is where they do small batch mixing of seed in the Twin Cities. We work with them pretty closely, but they have a retail, so you can get C20. You can get I think you can get organic fertilizer from them. You can get seed from them, so they're a really good resource. They also do things like have erosion blankets and things that you might need for seeding on slopes. Um, and then yeah, Joel, you can if you email me, I can be more specific about other issues that you have and see if I have other tips. But I usually for chelated iron. So again, it's chelated iron, and we use FEHEDTA. But you can go like even on Amazon and search that, and there are a lot of products out there that you can buy. The last session, there was a question about a particular product. I think the name's going to escape me, but read the label, because that product that they were asking about, it was a non-selective. So that means it will kill everything. It will kill the grass with the weeds. So you really want to be careful when you buy something, read the instructions, see what it is, because a non-selective is like Roundup, and there are organic solutions or alternatives to Roundup that are going to, and they'll say they can kill Creeping Charlie, but they're going to kill the grass as well. So depending on where you're using it, maybe totally fine, but something just to keep in mind. I usually, when I get questions like this, if I think of a thought afterwards, these videos are up on our YouTube channel as well, and I've been trying to comment on some of the questions to see just as a follow-up, and that was one of them from last session.
If we're really close to next week, I'll put you in. I can make you.
You're welcome.
Once we get payment.
We have about 2 minutes left. Do you have any other questions here in the last minute? I appreciate everyone joining. And you can go back and look at all of the other information sessions. We do have them on our website and on our YouTube page. I try to make them timely to the season, but also there's certain topics that come up every time. Creeping Charlie, one of them. Seeding is another. Those are, you know, common questions, and we're always happy to help. Every lawn is a little bit different, so we use kind of some general terms, some general suggestions, but happy to be more specific for you. And yeah, and then if during the season, if you ever have any questions, communicating with us is the best way to get an answer here. Communicating with the office. Our field workers, they know a lot as well. They may not be able to answer things in the same way that we do, because they are not necessarily purchasing the products, talking about it every day. They don't have a horticulture background. Here in the office, we do a lot of educating and trying to keep on top of new products and new processes. So always happy to answer questions for you. Okay, I think with that, then I'll end the presentation. I appreciate your participation today, and happy fall. I hope you have a happy winter as well, and hopefully we get some snow this year. Thank you so much.